Well, hello.
I'm Abby Fox, and
I'm Ellie Elston. I was the VP Member Education over the last year, 2014, and I'm currently the Ritual Chair for Delta Gamma.
And I last year was Director of COB, Continuous Open Bidding, helping with recruitment, and right now I'm the current VP Member Education, so Ellie's old position.
So we're going to talk today about our ritual and how we think it plays out in every aspect of our members' experiences, but we are aiming for distinction. So we think that we are at this point where our chapter is really engaged in analyzing and reevaluating where we are, analyzing our values and our ritual, and taking that in. So we hope to explain that in more detail as we go through. But this is our Article 2. So I was going to say this one.
Article 2 is kind of Delta Gamma's constitution, our main thing that we look back and focus on and evaluate all of our programs based on. So the objects of this fraternity shall be to foster high ideals of friendship among women, to promote their educational and cultural interests, to create in them a true sense of social responsibility, and to develop in them the best qualities of character. So we really do try to come back to this and make sure that we're hitting each and every one of these points in our different programs. But starting out, we're going to kind of trace you through the new member journey based in rituals. So starting, we have recruitment. RPW is recruitment preparation workshops. We have that at the end of the spring and the beginning of the fall, right before we start school, and again right before we start school, second semester. So our first RPW at the beginning of the fall, we created a membership selection criteria. So what we do is we have all the chapter members come together, and it's 3 days of recruitment, training, and fun. And Delta Gamma has 5 broad membership ideals, values that we're looking for. And one of the things that we did this time around was we put those 5 on the wall, and then we had members kind of shout out ideas of things that they're looking for, qualities that they're looking for in new members. So we wrote all those down, and then we did, I don't know if you guys have seen dot voting, but we had each member gets 1 dot per page, and they came up and they put their vote next to what they think the most important criteria for a new member is. So we took all of that data and were able to kind of craft this membership selection criteria statement of exactly what we're looking for in our new member class. So we have the statement directly from the chapter of what they're looking for. And then we kind of based the rest of our recruitment training on that statement and analyzing that. So we had a practice how you talk about a P&M in recruitment. So we had the seniors. We'd be like, okay, Kelly Buchanan, how does she fit this criteria? What exactly about her matches this? And then we went through each of the seniors and kind of pulled their characteristics and made sure that they matched with our new members, what we were looking for. Also in RPW, we pulled in alumni from both Cleveland East and Cleveland West chapters, and they came and practiced as P&Ms, and we had conversations with them. So I would be the alumni practice P&M, and Ellie would be recruiting me, and just kind of talking through those discussions, and they kind of helped us realize our strengths and weaknesses and what we needed to work on with that. So we really tried to pull them in. And then in the actual recruitment process this spring, we requested a CDC, a collegiate development consultant. We requested this woman from DG executive offices to come and help us, specialized in recruitment, and help us through the process. And this was completely on our own, requesting her that we really wanted that extra guidance and help to focus in on the values. But during recruitment, after the parties, we get together for membership selection, MS, and we evaluate each of the P&Ms, and we really try to focus on those criteria that we created in the fall, and make sure that when women are standing up to speak about the different P&Ms, that they're hitting each of those points and evaluating them on what we've already created, what we're looking for, to make sure that they match those criteria. So after recruitment, we move into the new member experience. So we just got our new members, very exciting. New members go through a 9-week new member pursuit program. It's set forth by DG executive offices. So it's 9 weeks of every Sunday the new members get together for a new member meeting, and they have a program that focuses in on the history and the values of Delta Gamma. Each meeting has a different theme, and we pull in different leaders from the chapter. So like one new member meeting is focused on foundation. So we pull in Elizabeth, our foundation chair, and she comes and kind of educates them about that. And then the next week is scholarship. So they come and they educate them about that as well, and really kind of instilling those values in them from the very start before they're initiated. So moving on past the new member pursuits, we kind of wanted to talk about the Delta Gamma Pride and how that plays a part. So going into Greek Week, last year we had, during the Greek Week period, our 10th anniversary Anchor Ball. 10th anniversary Anchor Ball, where it's our 10th anniversary of being Delta Gammas on this campus. So we had alumni from across the entire country come for this event, but they were also here during Greek Week, which is really awesome. So they were able to come to our different events, cheer us on. During Greek Week, we are not always the most skilled at some of the events, but we have a lot of passion and a lot of drive, and we are there to cheer on and support each other. And it was great because we had the alumni there too. And we also have alumni coaching different events. So rope pull, it's always like a competition, like which alum is going to come back and coach us this year. But talking about rope pull itself.
So we do just want to talk about rope pull a little bit. It's our pride and joy of last year. So rope pull is really like a chapter experience. There's a lot of people involved in it. And it's like our number one goal is to win rope pull, and we usually get almost there or something, or we don't get even close. But last year, because it was so rainy, the trenches were constantly blowing out, so we never actually practiced with all 10 people, not once. And we had maybe like 6 like haphazard half of rope pull practices, but I think what ended up like leading us to victory was the intense pride that we got really pumped up. We talked a lot about sportsmanship really intentionally beforehand because we didn't want to come out and like be mean, but we did win rope pull, and it was a huge deal, and now we have so many people interested, so we wanted to talk about that. But we kind of pulled that pride forward. We realized that people were really jazzed, and we wanted to like channel that energy into more school traditions. So Rachel Sisnopchik, who happens to be in the room, is the in next year's COC executive president. And she's brought so much passion about the school traditions to our chapter, but rather than just like be excited, like why don't you guys come support me, she's also like pulling people into the planning of that. So about half of the homecoming committee last year was Delta Gammas. And then that meant that we were much more invested in going to those events. I thought that was fantastic. But also we decided that we wanted to focus more on homecoming, and so we were going to plan more of our events intentionally around that weekend because we have so many alum come back. So we had a networking event where Delta Gammas were invited to come and like give some career tips. It was like an informal social that was awesome. And then we had our scholarship brunch. So we invited parents, some family members, and alumni of our chapter to come and kind of celebrate what's traditionally just like a scholarship recognition, but we also kind of pulled in some other elements. We took a lot of feedback from the chapter on what awards we wanted to include in that. And we also have a specific ritual dedicated to scholarship and the Lamp of Knowledge. So the first time you achieve a 4.0 for the semester in your college career, you get a Lamp of Knowledge that hangs on your badge, and we did that ceremony at the scholarship brunch, so that was really special. So moving forward into the membership development career beyond the new member experience, our sophomore and junior pursuits. So pursuits, it does go beyond your new member experience. It's kind of the same program through the rest of the class experiences. So sophomore and junior pursuits are really focused on open and honest conversation about every aspect of your experience. So there are some structured activities that focus on sharing and on bonding. and on the different themes of the years, but I think we reshaped the goal last year to be less about following the book exactly and following exactly what we were prescribed to do, but going beyond that and addressing the specific needs of our chapter. So the theme for the sophomore year is about analyzing your values. It's about, we take a different aspect of the formal ritual at every Pursuits meeting and kind of break it apart and talk honestly, like, do you understand this? Do you think this is a good ritual? Do you think this is something that applies to your life? And if not, let's talk about it. And the cool thing is that the conclusion is usually either, yeah, this is actually something really special, or it's something like, I think we really need more education, and I'd love to talk about this with the rest of the chapter. That's been something really cool, and I think we've been afraid to talk about formal ritual in that open, honest conversation before because we're afraid the conversation's going to lead to this doesn't matter. And I think the cool thing is that we've realized it really does matter to us. So that's kind of the theme of the sophomore year. There's also some goal setting and personal reflection as well. But then the junior pursuits is kind of focused on your class legacy. So you come in and talk about what do you think you're contributing as a class? What do you love about this experience? And what do you want to tell your sisters? It's been cool because at the junior year, that's kind of where we start to lose people a little bit. You've gone through the ritual a couple of times, you feel like you're an old pro at that, and you're maybe rolling your eyes. So it's cool that the junior class can really come back together and talk about what makes the experience special. And by the end of that experience, you're focusing more on like what's your class legacy through the eyes of you as alumni. And when you leave, what do you want to come back to this chapter and see happening because you were here? It's really cool to have those conversations as a class rather than just as leadership or just as specific teams in the chapter, because we do want everyone to be involved in that. And I think your membership is the most important part, and including everyone class by class is the most important part. So we've really refocused on pursuits and investing some time into that. We also want to talk about one really cool aspect that we added. So last fall, the sophomore event was about, it was honestly just an open conversation. We started by just saying, where do you see yourself in 5 years, and how do you see Delta Gamma playing a role? And the conversation lasted about an hour and a half. It was fantastic. I think it was the first time that we really could connect to everyone individually, and it's something we definitely intend to apply. Like, just share about yourself. What does DG mean to you? We're going to be applying that to more programs than just the sophomore pursuit. So we also have been, I think a theme of the last year of our leadership has been, let's re-examine what our problems are and stop giving up on them. So what does our chapter need, and how can we respond to that? We had a conversation like midway through last semester about, we realized that a lot of people felt disconnected, and there were some Delta Gammas who felt like they didn't talk to anyone outside of chapter. Not okay. So I was personally very upset about that, and I think a lot of us were. So we decided that we were just going to open it up in chapter. So I facilitated the conversation and just said, people don't feel connected. We know this. We don't talk about it a lot, but what can we do? And I think it was supposed to be a 10-minute conversation. I said, this will go as long as you guys want it to. Ended up taking 35 minutes, and at the end of it, we had a really cool idea. So Abby's going to talk about that.
Yeah, so after this conversation was born this program, which we've termed Happy Hannah. And kind of what happens is we took the idea from Orientation Leaders Daymaker, and so each sister, it was completely optional if you wanted to participate, but each sister was given another sister at random, and you became that person's Happy Hannah, and your job for the 3 weeks left in the semester was to make their day in some way, write them a note, have a conversation that normally you wouldn't reach out to the sister. And it was really just to kind of form those individual connections between people that typically would not reach out to each other, and kind of recognize each other's strengths and forming those bonds between each other. So we did this program for the last 3 weeks. Seemed like it was going pretty well. We sent out a survey and we're like, so what do you guys think? Did you do your Happy Hannah? Did you receive your Happy Hannah? What do you think? And the results were pretty amazing. We had 95% success rate, like of people saying, yes, I want to continue this program. Yes, this program made me feel a lot more involved. And some of the comments were just so like heartwarming of sisters saying, you know, I felt left out before, and when so-and-so reached out to me, I felt like I mattered, like someone noticed. And that was just like the best feedback to hear. There was also a small problem in the feedback that we saw. Almost everybody said that they'd completed their Happy Hannah, but only half the people said that they had received something. So kind of taking that, we're definitely continuing the program, and we're going to do it at the end of this semester, but kind of like reevaluating it. And I think we need to like reframe it for the chapter and say, this is not something that you need to, it kind of became like a gift giving thing, like no baking cookies for people. Let's not give them like your old t-shirt, something like that. We should really like focus in on conversations, like write a note. There should be no money spent, no gift giving, but more like forming those individual like friendships or connections between people. So that's kind of like the like refocus we're taking on the program, but we're definitely continuing it because there was such like positive like things happening out of that.
So the senior class experience is kind of the next thing we're going to talk about. It's also term pursuits, but it's a little less structured, and I think our chapter has taken some liberties in making sure that it's definitely tailored to us. So the senior class is focused on like extending that class legacy, like how are we doing, but also checking in and saying what's one last thing we want to leave, what's one last mark we want to leave on this chapter. It ends up being a really cool conversation. And it's not always like a class gift. I think that's how we used to interpret it. But it's become like, what's one last thing you really want to do for the chapter, or what's something that you think we need in the chapter that the senior class can influence. So they focus on some of our more formal rituals that are centered around alumni. They're focused on becoming alumni and that transition into having a career, extending like your Delta Gamma experience. They have a lot of open and honest conversation there, and that's probably the coolest part. But they also connect with the alumni chapters in the area. We have a ton of Delta Gammas in Cleveland, and connecting with them is pretty special. I know that they have a senior class brunch that one of the alumni chapters hosts, and you're also connected with an Aunt Hannah at the end of the year. So that's someone that's an alumni in the area that's in your field. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, and then we also have like a senior send-off at the end of the year. It's a special formal ritual. Last semester it was optional because we just couldn't find the time, and we had a lot of people there, so that was really cool. So moving forward, I think especially last year when we hit that 10-year mark, we started to look back on where we've come and how far we've come, and realized that maybe for the first couple of years we were like getting our footing, but then we realized that we started coasting and weren't really improving our chapter experience as much as we wanted to. Definitely by year 10